Hello, and a warm welcome to another special edition of Procurement Shorts, where we bring you up to speed on what's hot in procurement and supply chain. On the show today, we'll turn our focus to trucking and look at the many challenges plaguing the sector. Why is an oversupply situation in the US problematic? How are falling imports affecting its health? Is a pileup in European ports affecting trucking across the ocean? And how are costs balancing up amid the crisis? For all these and more, keep watching the trucking edition of Procurement Shorts. The American trucking segment is facing an unprecedented oversupply situation. This has especially been the case since the pandemic. A total of 195,000 new carriers have entered the market since July of 2020. Data reveals that the monthly average of new trucks entering the market stands at about 13,370 per month. In April alone, that number hit 23,479. Now, the reasons for these many trucks entering the market are manifold. Think about it. Government stimulus immediately after the COVID pandemic broke in early 2020 saw great market conditions and significantly higher spot rates. However, the situation in the United States today is one where too many truckers are competing to transport too few goods. And that's seen spot rates, believe it or not, drop lower than what they were 3 years ago. Taking fuel costs into consideration, the current spot rate for a truck is about $1.95 to the mile. That rate was $2.16 to the mile in 2019. Experts say spot rates today could plummet further. After all, July and August this year are expected to not be as robust when it comes to trucking and transport. That's because retail inventories have been overstocked for most of this year, and bulk procurement for the festive season isn't exactly bound to see a surge in the second half of 2022. This means there's a very real chance that 2022 could see spot rates sink further to even below the inflation-adjusted low of July 2019 that read $1.82 to the mile. The economic scenario in the US isn't doing any favors to spot rates either. Twin rate hikes by the Fed, including a record 75 basis point increase, have brought construction and industrial activity to a bit of a halt. Then there's surging inflation and fears of an impending recession, both of which are doing no favors to American trucking. You just can't insulate the American trucking situation from global factors, and many of them, including a socio-economic one in Europe, have had an impact on trucking across the ocean. But we'll get there in a bit. For now, let's talk about a more familiar problem, and that's the import situation. Since May of this year, US-bound container imports have dropped by over 36%. The situation is especially alarming since it pretty much draws curtains on an 18-month surge in imports that kept the local transportation ecosystem alive and kicking. Today, fewer imports have also met longer transit times of between 30 and 35 days, an unmistakable sign of softening import volumes overall. Now, US-China trade has not surprisingly been below par, owing to a variety of factors including China's back-to-back lockdowns. However, a sustained pileup at multiple European ports has worsened the American import scene, which in turn has further slowed down American trucking. Over the last few weeks, labor unrest at multiple ports in Germany and the Netherlands has created a massive pileup of export containers scheduled to make their way to the United States. A slew of goods, including automobiles, automobile parts, EV batteries, home decor, and flooring have been stuck in these ports for days and sometimes even weeks on end. According to shipping schedule tracker Sea Intelligence, only 30 to 40% of goods from European ports are on schedule. Logistics firm Crane Worldwide claims that delays to the US could see a domino effect of sorts and are expected to last for 3 months, with average delays ranging from 7 to 9 days. There's no denying that a perfect storm of oversupply, falling spot rates, slowing imports, and a sustained period of shipping delays could spell terrible news for trucking in the United States. What does this mean for trucking companies themselves? For one, fewer jobs. While non-supervisory jobs hit a high in April, there are indications that several companies might be debating the prospect of right-sizing their driver crews. A study by the University of Michigan finds that advancements in self-driving technology for long-haul trucks alone could see job losses of up to 500,000, and this includes drivers, maintenance, and service staff. Meanwhile, American trucking company U.S. Express Enterprises announced that it was laying off 70 members of its corporate and IT staff following a whopping Q1 loss of $8.9 million. The company said these retrenchments wouldn't affect its drivers, mechanics, or service staff. The poor pace of trucking orders is impacting jobs beyond trucking. Fearing a purge, American trucking marketplace Convoy recently laid off 7% of its approximately 1,300-strong workforce. In a statement, Convoy said, and I quote, "We have made a number of organizational and other operating expense-related changes to ensure we are in the strongest financial position possible ahead of the potential for worsening economic conditions." What's surprising is that these tumultuous economic circumstances in trucking come barely a year after there were an estimated 80,000 driver vacancies in the U.S. Today, over a third of truckers are over 55 years of age, with a younger workforce hard to come by. So the good news is that despite a possible purge, wages are forecast to grow by 10% this year, after growing by 14% in 2021. But here's why that could still be a difficult thing to do. Spot rates are going nowhere, and spot freight jobs could make way for larger contract assignments. So the macroeconomics of it all remains the big challenge for trucking, especially given that fuel prices are high and labor costs have hit a peak. Will trucking get out of its rut? Time is perhaps best suited to answer that question. Speaking of time, that's all we have of it on this trucking special of Procurement Shorts. But you can keep pace with news and views from this space by logging on to bureaulive.ai. Until we meet again, goodbye from us!